It's past midnight. You hear the door, small footsteps are in the hallway, and then a little face appears at the edge of your bed, eyes wide, and the blanket is dragging behind them. Not quite sure if they're even allowed to be there. You've done everything right, the routine, the stories, the rules, yet here they are again. You've been calling this a sleep problem, but what if your child has not been waking up because something is broken? What if they've been waking up because they're trying to tell you something every single night? Today, we'll explain a few things they're trying to say without being able to. Number one, it was never they're just not tired enough to sleep. The first thing most parents get wrong about toddler sleep is that they treat resistance of bedtime like defiance, like the child who is being stubborn or is pushing boundaries on purpose. And so they push back. Stricter rules and firmer limits or more consequences. But here's what's actually happening. The parts of their brain responsible for reasoning and self-control is still years away from being fully developed. But what is actually active is their emotional brain, the part that feels everything intensely and has almost no tools yet to manage it. Bedtime is the moment your child loses two things that keep that emotional brain calm: stimulation and you. And for a child who hasn't yet built the internal resources to sit with that, what looks like stalling is often something else entirely. It's just regulation. It's a child doing everything they can to stay connected to their safe person for as long as possible before they go to sleep. Number two, they need to locate you before they can fully let go. Think about the last time you had to sleep somewhere unfamiliar, like a distant hotel. The way your brain stayed slightly alert longer, the way you needed to settle in before you could fully switch off. Your child lives that experience every single night, except they don't have your years of evidence that everything will be fine in the morning. They don't have your ability to reason through where you are and whether you will be still there in the morning. What they have is a nervous system that is wired but not trained to keep the safe person close during vulnerable moments. This is why they do the classic one more hug, one more question. It's a loop that's not actually manipulation. And it's not even a problem to really fix. That's a child who completely loves you and he's just afraid to let go at night. Number three, what bedtime behavior is actually saying. This one is important. Once you start reading bedtime behavior as communication, every pattern starts to mean something else. A child who stalls endlessly, one more story, one more sip, is almost always managing anxiety. They don't know a way to name what they feel, so they just keep finding reasons to keep you there. What they need the most is not fewer requests. It's a bedtime where connection feels enough that they let go. And that's important. A child who suddenly becomes terrified of monsters or the dark, things that they mentioned before, is processing a new experience, a change in a routine, something they overheard that they couldn't understand. Monsters are rarely about monsters. A child who wakes up in the night and comes straight to your room without calling out knows exactly what they need and where to find it. The quiet walk down the hallway is one of the most trusting things a child can do. They didn't panic, they just came to you. And a child who has been sleeping well for months and suddenly can't is telling you that something's shifted. And we'll come back to that. If this is changing the way you see your bedtime, subscribe to Bloom early. Every week we translate what your child is actually going through into things you can understand and do so easily. Number four, they're still in the process of learning to feel safe alone. The ability to fall asleep alone and stay asleep through the night is a skill and not an instinct. Like every other skill your child is building right now, walking, talking, and sharing, it develops gradually and differently in every child. The ability to soothe your own nervous system when you're overwhelmed isn't fully developed until the mid-20s. At 3, 4, or 5 years old, your child is in the very early stages of building that capacity. What helps them build this is not being left to manage it alone. What helps is co-regulation. Your calm, consistent presence helping their nervous system learn what settling feels like. Number 5, and this one is important. Your energy at bedtime is something they can read into. It's the hardest one to sit with, but if bedtime has become something you dread, if you start the routine already bracing or frustrated before you start, your child reads that before you even say a word. They don't understand that you're exhausted from a full day, but they can feel the difference in the way you hold them and the way you rush through the story. The tightness in your voice when you say goodnight. Because your child brain is wired to monitor your emotional state for information about safety. A parent who seems tense at bedtime tells them something is wrong, which makes it harder to let go. The most powerful intervention you have at bedtime costs nothing and takes 30 seconds. Before you go in, pause, breathe slowly. Decide that tonight you are not fighting bedtime. You are ending the day with your child. Number 6, when sleep suddenly changes, listen carefully. If your child has been sleeping reasonably well and then suddenly something changes, don't rush to fix it. First, look at what's happening in their days. Children who process experience during sleep, a big week or a new room at a nursery, a conflict with a friend, it almost always shows up at night first. The sleep disruption isn't the problem. It's a signal. Ask questions during the day. Make space for the feelings to get processed before the lights go out. If your child suddenly seems frightened of the dark, being alone, or something that they can't name, take it seriously even if you can't see the source. Children this age are beginning to understand that the world is bigger and more complex than they realized. And fear dismissed does not go away. Your child isn't being stubborn by appearing at your bedroom door, and they're not trying to make your life harder. They appeared because you're the safest place they know. And when everything becomes uncertain, they discover the person who makes the world feel manageable. Watch this video next where we reveal 5 parenting habits that feel right, but are actually holding your child back.